La-di-da-di-da. Hello, hello. This is Pixie doing another video. So interesting stuff. I don't know, some things have been falling around a bit of MGTOW. I did see Jordan Peterson apologising for saying that they can be a bit pathetic, and because he has to realise that you could say that to all his clients are pathetic at some level. And that's merely the ego of the individual perceiving it. It's not a feminist ideal. Often there's some men that kind of beta males who would side with they have something built in with feminist type stuff, so they won't say anything bad against a woman. They'll attack another man because they want to be seen as kind of, I don't know, a protector of females, I guess. It's a hero complex, maybe, if we wanted to put psychological terms into that. It often can be the underdoing of a lot of men as well, because they think that what's good for people might actually be quite toxic and not realise. Or if they're mentally ill, they go for a period where they lose control of themselves, that can be a problem. So anyway, it's nice that he kind of apologised, but then he needs to really understand that he doesn't fully understand what MGTOW is, because he hasn't had them painful experiences. He's had quite a stable structure, really, and it's when the individual's challenged that they might need to change their personality. And I guess really MGTOW, just like men going their own way, is just a suggestion, really, more than any. I mean, it's a movement for some people, but it's not like a set paradigm of how to do it. You know, it's like, why not be a feminist, or, you know, women becoming feminists, and what that might mean, and would a father play a role in laying it out, what that structure might be? Possibly. It may create sort of like like tomboy type characteristics. And then that shows the impact of the parental association with the child. You know, why do some people want to be very, very feminine, and some people want to be very, very feminist? Because I guess the feminist is in this evolved form is the inner patriarch, which would be the inner child, and so that they have a male part of them, like men have female. Like I'm talking now, I've got more of a female voice on. You know, I'm not saying, right, we need to do this. You know, I'm not being dictatorial or something. But there's other, or come into other bits of personality, so how we function. Now, I said we, and that's interesting. I said we for quite a while. Most people say, well, didn't mean I, but I see myself as a collective consciousness. And beliefs can shape how you are. And sometimes having extensions of yourselves, like alter versions, allow you to develop more deeper, but what you need to have is integrated alter versions. So, for example, if you go to work, you can put the mask of a professional on, you get on with the job, you act within them paradigms, and then you can take that mask off. Some people can't. They've created this persona that because it's the most highly efficient, highly successful version of themselves, and it over dominates. And I guess for me, it's kind of like the psychological exploration of one's inner world, a universe, and that I can create these entities. But the problem is because I was watching, they call it dissociated personality disorder, or which replaces the model of the multiple personality disorder. And it's not necessarily a disorder, really; it's an order. Because some people, if they find that that's their norm, then it doesn't represent a disorder to them. It's only a disorder if they've got no control over them. And that's why I'm about reintegration of the personality. Some people have more prevalent cases are fragmented at the core because they were damaged as a child, and their inner child split in some way. And so these are kind of like the manifestations from it. It's the Hydra. So they've chopped the head off the innocent form inside them has been attacked, and it's routed two different directions. And then why it's done that is because it's adapted to the harm, and so the manifestation is its new form. It's not like, well, you need to create this just to survive. It's because it's at the very psyche, and so it's basically preventing it happening again. And for people with much more multiple personalities, maybe it happened more times. So it's like a plant; you keep cutting bits of it back, growing back, because it's the eternal part of it is transcended in the psyche. But it can remerge. It can remerge into one stronger avatar. You just have to find out how they can integrate it back together again. Like a vine, they wind up around each other and become this thick, strong vine. A wine? Yeah, wine's pretty good as well. But a vine, so it's so it would help their the psychological function of that. I will go back to MGTOW in a sec. But we all have multiple personalities in that we've got a framework, we've got avatars, and they're created from instinct as well. It's like a subtle wind of instinct or ripples. So to explain that, if someone's never been angry, they've got this inner anger that's never been accessed, and it's probably hiding in the shadows of their mind. But when they're in a situation where they have to expose that, then they bring it out, and then they can actually start to develop it. If they don't develop it, it could come out as pure focused rage because they've bottled it up for so long. So it's been stimulated to be ready to be active, but it's always been held back. And when it comes out, the manifestation of it, A, it wants to release all that energy, and B, it wants to basically fulfill its full capacity. So it's trying to engulf the rest of the personality because it's been let free. And then there's the different ways. Is that when you understand it, you can channel it. So like I can be kind of agitated a situation, but be working towards solving it, and so I can remain in that state of mind. So our best guess really is to have the ability to switch things on, switch things off. Some things I can't, for whatever reason, so it's a bit more difficult. And then also where your consciousness starts and begins. And how is a multiple personality disorder or disassociation? Disassociation means you're in touch with reality. So I don't think it's necessarily disassociated, or in touch with your other personalities. That's probably what it is. Because it doesn't necessarily have to work like that at all. So how can this relate to MGTOW? Well, MGTOW, you have to create an alternative viewpoint and reassign a character. Coming back to the tomboy, it's possibly because they've developed that inner child and it becomes more an equal part of them. So the inner child is a strong part of them, and there's some people have like a softer outer coating and a harder core, or reverse of that. They're very strong on the outside, maybe they're soft in the middle. You may have someone who's hard throughout. Yeah, it might be some other. But if you're hard in that sense, there's less flexibility because it's like a plant in that it's rigid. You know, you can't change that once it's done. If it's damaged in some way, it may subvert another or branch or grow off. But it's going to be very similar to the way the trunk is, that core character. And it may develop some other things. Yeah, I'll have to do some study, but I'm looking to create and change the way my mind thinks to be more highly efficient. Not because I had to reassign resources as a coping mechanism, survival mechanism to a situation. More that I've got, but you can at some level. And there's other things where people listen very careful to their voices, because if they go, well, that's really nice, that doesn't sound like me anymore, does it? So because that part of that characteristic is actually is an alternative. It's like a mask. It's only a smaller entity. I haven't fed it and grown it into anything. But you could do, and it's in the same way that some people are told, hey, this is where it's difficult around sexuality. You could be bisexual, you could be this. But if you've got someone saying, well, I'm a professional and I'm telling you this, you take it on board and it can do you some harm, because you may be pushing one part of yourself aside to reassign and create another alter personality. And I don't think it's restricted from age. So I mentioned about that it may be as a kind of disorder in the early development, developmental stages. It's more likely, I've got a tongue tie there, it's more likely that any harm that's happened there is a little more difficult to deal with, but it's not impossible. It's probably going to require deep hypnosis, and you want to be looking at the being itself, and then remove the past. The past had an effect at the time. If you let go of things like time, then you're not held by history, you know. Otherwise, you're always in a trauma cycle, because you're referring back to a period in your time. I mean, some things give you great strength, like, you know, if you had a first experience and you did really well at something, keeping that in your logbook, your mental logbook, brilliant. Because then if you ever need to remind yourself of how you deal with these situations, like if you had to act on stage and you did a really good performance, you want to keep that. But even if you had a bad one, the bad one you learned a lot from, well, that's fine. There's always more to learn, but you don't actually hold personal grudge over it. You need to process it and move on. But it becomes data. It becomes data to your personality. It's not like playing this film over and over in my head, you know. But that's what happens with extreme trauma, is that you'll get flashbacks and things. So it hasn't been processed. It's been ingrained into the mind. Yes. There's much else we can talk about MGTOW, really. Not the main mint. Okay, well, this is Pigsy signing off this video, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.